Welcome to the Alex Salmond Show, where we continue our series on homelessness, one of the issues pushed into the political shadows by the all-encompassing Brexit debates. Today is officially marked as World Homelessness Day, and it arrives against a background of record figures for rough sleeping in London and of record deaths of homeless people across England and Wales. Last week, we focused on the practical action being taken by those on the front line of the battle against poverty and homelessness, when Alex visited Brixton's Soup Kitchen.
We've got clients here who have been with us from the beginning, and now they're volunteering with us because they want to give back. They want to give back that support they got when they needed it.
Today, we talked to someone who has taken one of London's iconic images of red buses and applied them to combating London's shame of those excluded from the global city's prosperity and wealth.
We're looking at a really holistic approach, Alex. So we've got a bus for eating, sleeping, learning and well-being. You know, so we're slightly different to most night shelters or day centres. We're saying to these guys, come down, here's your bunk, here's your storage, we've got you for an extended period of time, nip off and have a shower and get cleaned up, and then right, let's get you back on your feet.
And we speak to some of the famous backers who are putting their shoulders to the wheel. Can these celebrity supporters make a real difference where it matters?
And I think the thing what Dan is doing with Buses for the Homeless, he's making little pods within London buses, and that not only are they giving some people somewhere to live, they're also bringing in people to rehabilitate them into society again.
But first, your reaction to last week's show. Lynn says, great respect for the charities helping the homeless. I so wish they weren't needed. Universal Credit has a lot to answer for. Eleanor says, Universal Credit is set up to set you up to fail. Gary Spence says, the UK is the 5th largest economy, so soup kitchens shouldn't be needed. People should be housed in unused houses. It is immoral that anyone is left homeless. Henry says, they may have a moral duty, but have they got the political will to end sanctions and universal credit and tackle high rents in the private sector? Build more affordable homes, he says. And finally, Lorraine says, could be any one of us. Don't kid yourself. These guys and girls did not wake up one morning and say, Yahoo, I'm going to live on the street. The London Red Bus, along with Bobby's Helmets and the Tower of London, is one of the capital city's great icons. High-fitting, therefore, that this same image should be applied to tackling London's hidden shame. The fact that in this prosperous global city, rough sleeping and deaths of the homeless are remorselessly rising. It is not in doubt that there is public support for action on this scandal. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the public financial support for the well-known charities such as Shelter, Crisis and The Big Issue. However, today, we focus on specific practical action in the battle against homelessness in one of the richest cities in the world. Alex speaks to Dan Atkins and Jason Armstrong of Buses for Homeless.
So, Dan Atkins, tell us, what gave you the idea of Buses for Homeless?
Yeah, so I've been building buses and coaches for the last 5 or 6 years now, and one day I walked into the yard and there was a 68-year-old gentleman who was a close friend of mine that was actually sleeping rough under where you put your luggage in a coach. Now that broke my heart, so literally that day we went out, we brought him a bus, took it back to the yard and kitted it out where him and his 3 kids, his dogs, lived in for 2 years. Now, he had 3 dogs, so he couldn't get into social housing. And honestly, seeing somebody like that who had given me a lot of help and support, you know, the logical thing was to help pay it forward and make a difference.
Now, you recently made big steps forward. You've now got 4 buses, you've got your site. What do each of the buses do? Because they're all designed for a different job, aren't they?
Yeah, so we're looking at a really holistic approach, Alex. So we've got a bus for eating, sleeping, learning and well-being. You know, so we're slightly different to most night shelters or day centres. We're saying to these guys, come down, here's your bunk, here's your storage, we've got you for an extended period of time, nip off and have a shower and get cleaned up, and then right, let's get you back on your feet.
Can I turn to you, Jason Armstrong? Jason, you've been there this year, you've been homeless, family breakup, pulled yourself out of it, and you're now helping with this project. What's your assessment as somebody who's experienced homelessness of the Buses for Homeless project?
6 weeks ago, I was getting back into work I was homeless just over 4 months ago. I went to an organisation called Work Match to find some employment, and the lady, I told her my story, and she said to me, I know a gentleman that's doing a project called Buses for Homeless. So I left the office and got in contact with Dan as soon as, and he invited me down for an interview, and then it's gone from there. So 6 weeks ago I had no work. Dan's now offered me a job, which I got involved in straight away, and you know, it's just given me more growth really on my recovery. You know, the emptiness and the loneliness that I was feeling when I was homeless was very painful, and you know, lucky enough, I had a couple of people who was there to, you know, give me a hand and give me that support that I needed. I was, you know, very shameful, and there was a lot of confusion going on in my head at the time.
And of course, your story, having pulled yourself back out again, and on the way to recovery, that must be a bit of a encouragement to the people who are using the services of Buses for Homeless. Yeah,
no, it's great. I mean, you know, like I say, just over 4 months ago I was homeless. I live in a dry house now, which is with 12 other guys, but it's a stepping stone for me. It's a roof over my head. You know, I've got a job now. I get up, you know, in the morning, and I've got structure back into my life.
And Dan, do you find, you know, the help of people like Jason and some of the other guys and people you've got involved, is that going to make your project get to the cutting edge?
And the whole ethos behind the Buses for Homeless program is really to facilitate more people like Jason. You know, he has hit rock bottom. Now all he wants to do is help other homeless people pay it forward. Throughout the period of time that we've been in the development and the build stage, we've had 5 or 6 different other people who have been rough sleeping at times or been homeless. And it's just amazing. These guys have the skills, they have the tools, they have the knowledge. They just need our support. And as Jason rightfully alluded to, it's that hope that we're trying to create. You know, there is another way. And people who've walked the talk, you know, we want these guys coming back and mentoring and leading the next group of people through the program. And it's just an absolute pleasure to have Jason and all the others who've been with us so far. And we're really excited about moving forward now that we've got our static site lined up and we're ready to start. And
are you open to all? I mean, men, women, all ages, all backgrounds?
We will be. So the initial part of the program, there's around 85% of rough sleepers are male. So with especially the safeguarding issues of having men and women on the same buses, our pilot phase will be looking at men predominantly. From there, we will be, once we cut our teeth and when we get more experience then and growing, we'll be open to everybody that has been either rough sleeping or is back in supported housing as well. We're not going to discriminate. We just want to help and make a big difference in people's lives.
Kind of a practical question. I mean, I know you're a coach builder yourself, but by trade, what buses are you using, just as a matter of interest?
Well, so there's a huge Scottish kind of connection there as well. I did email Sir Brian Souter, the founder of Stagecoach, and they have been incredibly generous in support of our program. They've donated us 4 buses at the start of the year in February and have just confirmed another 2. So
these will be buses which were built in Falkirk by...
Indeed, by a good friend of yours.
So they're good buses, I could tell you that.
They are.
They're built to last.
They are, and you know, they are big structures, and it's amazing. Once you take out the seats, it's amazing what you can do inside a double-decker. And a huge thanks to everybody at Stagecoach. But most importantly, they got in touch with us last month and said, Dan, once people come through your program, can we then put them in driver apprenticeships in order to potentially get them out there in employment? Now that for us is just amazing. And again, they've been so incredibly supportive, as with the community as well.
And how about some of your other backers? I mean, have people been helping with your lifestyle bus, for example? I know you offer haircuts and getting people spruced up for going to job interviews and things.
Absolutely. So the whole premise of the program is really to work out how and why these people become homeless in the first place. Now, most people wrongly assume that drugs and alcohol were the leading factors. However, we believe they're a coping mechanism, A, for life on the street, but most importantly, life in here and in here. And so it's almost pulling back the layers of the onion, you know, through Reiki, meditation, mindfulness, energy healing, as well as more clinical psychologists as well. We're trying to get deep into their psyche to work out how and why and find that root cause. And once we help them through that, then we package them back with as much love, support, coping mechanisms as possible. And then we move them over to our learning bus where we'll teach them soft and vocational skills in order to re-engage them back into employment. Or like Jason, help him set up his own business again and really help him get on his feet and run that.
Now, you've had some celebrity back. I mean, I'm about to interview Debbie Arnold. What's the impact of celebrity on such a programme such as yours? Is it a great assistance, or basically are they just another shoulder to the wheel?
Look, and I've got full body goosebumps. You know, Debbie, her lovely daughters and everyone have been so supportive of what we're doing. You know, in December last year, we all teamed up and drove around London with a bus full of Santa sacks and 500 pieces of clothing. And it was incredible. This time round, we're looking to team up on the 3rd of December. We're doing a Christmas lunch for 100 homeless people. And touch wood, we'll work with the girls in order to do the same thing for the people who turn up then.
So Jason, people are watching this show around the world, and no one in any country, certainly in any rich country such as the UK, likes to see other people reduced to destitution. So what would be your message to ordinary members of the public, when they pass by a homeless person? How can they actively get involved in confronting this issue?
Well, I suggest that the individual just gives 5 minutes of their time to have a light conversation with the person and just give them a bit of love and support, show you compassion, and that makes that individual feel a lot warmer. Comfort becomes within just that little 5 minute chat.
So that would be an encouragement for the whole day if somebody just acknowledges your presence.
100%, because when I was homeless, to have someone give me that bit of time, give me more strength within myself, and made me then go and get help where I needed to, other organisations, or even if through the doctors or whatever. It just gives me encouragement to give me a lift up.
And any message to the authorities, to the politicians, to the Parliament, obsessed by Brexit, to the government, successive governments who haven't managed to tackle this apparently intractable problem? Is there a simple, practical message you could give to politicians?
Well, look, there's 9,000 people sleeping rough on the street in London tonight, and that's 9,000 too many. Please reach out to us. We'd love to talk. We're here to help as much as possible. And please do get in touch. We'd love to help.
Well, guys, thanks for coming along today. Now, what I can do is offer you the Alex Salmond Quake. The Quake is Scots Gaelic. Jason, you pass one to Dan first, and I'm going to get you one as well.
That's incredibly kind.
The Quake's, it's a loving cup. You put liquid in, and we're talking here Iron Brew, soft drinks only, into the Quake and pass it round all your pals.
Thank you so much.
And we'll have a toast to
there will be a lot of
tackle
milk
homelessness this Christmas.
and orange juice going in here later on this evening, Alex. Thank you very much for inviting us down, and thank you.
I thought you'd missed that.
Thank you.
Dan and Jason, thanks so much for coming in today. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
After the break, Alex speaks to some of the celebrity supporters who are on the buses. Can their efforts make a difference? Join us then. Welcome back. With politics consumed by Brexit, Alex looks at some of the issues which should be dominating the political agenda. We join him talking to some of the soap stars and singers who have lent their support to the Buses for Homeless initiative.
And now to talk to some of the crew of Buses for Homeless, I'm delighted to be joined by Debbie Arnold, by Kira Jansen and by Talia Jansen. Now, you're all in showbiz.
Showbiz.
Debbie, how did you get involved in Buses for Homeless, and how did you involve your two daughters?
Well, the thing is, I've always done stuff for the homeless, you know, for years and years and years, but I've always had a passion. I've always thought, you know, what somebody should do is take some London buses and convert them into buses for the homeless. And then I found out about Dan Atkins, and I met Dan. The first time I went for a meeting with him, because I thought, this is the best idea. I took my baby with me. Kira.
So how did you find get involved in that with your mum's urgings?
I think actually they were meeting for lunch, and I think I just kind of gate crashed the lunch, and then I kind of took it upon myself to then get involved in everything because it was such a lovely idea, and then got Talia involved as well because we kind of were all doing separate things, and then we just kind of
And then
ended up
Talia
doing
had
it
an
together.
idea about Christmas.
Talia.
Yes. So we're pretty big on Christmas in our household. We
Very big on Christmas.
go a bit crazy and buy a lot of presents. It's lovely, and I've always sort of thought, because my mum did a lot of work for the homeless when she was growing up. It'd be a nice thing to do to go and give Christmas presents back to the homeless. And I spoke to my sister, and she'd met Dan, and we kind of all just came together and thought, why don't we do a big charity run and do 100 Christmas sacks to give out to the homeless? And then it all snowballed from there, really. It just went a bit mad.
And then we got lots of different stuff from different places to put in. We also got a lot of donations in. And so Talia went off to buy stuff, and we all bought different things from different
It was
places.
mainly donations through social media, really.
So let's deal with the Christmas aspect first. I mean, I've seen the footage, and clearly people in the streets are delighted to get a Christmas parcel. Yeah. But you know, it's better to give and receive, as they say. I mean, how did it make the helpers feel when you're giving a bit of enjoyment to people who are searching for some?
Yeah, it was something really special. I think what we tried to do is we didn't focus necessarily on all the shelters. We grabbed a sack each, and we kind of stopped the bus wherever we could, and we tried to find people that would be, you know, in the most vulnerable position, and I think they were the people we got most of the response from. It was so overwhelming. They were so thankful. And I think the main thing, because it was so cold this particular Christmas, and we were giving them goodie bags and blankets and stuff, and I think that was their biggest thing, you know, like the warmth that we kind of provided for them. And it was the most amazing feeling. They were so grateful.
And Talia, this one of the conversations you had with people sort of stick in your mind?
There was, I mean, everybody, like my sister said, everyone's story is completely unique, and you know, some people are there for reasons which you could imagine, and some are there that you can't. And I spoke to one woman in particular. I sat with her for maybe an hour, and I know it sounds stupid, but my God, was it cold. I sat there for an hour, and she sits there every single night. And I spoke to her and sort of asked her all about her life and how she ended up getting on the streets. And this particular lady had sat on the streets in this particular spot. She'd been there for 30 years. It's just amazing. You think people are on the street for a short period of time and then they sort themselves out and that's it. But there are these people who are there all year, every year, and this is their life. And it makes you really reflect on your own life, and you go back into your house and think that you're so lucky. You really, really do take things for granted. You don't realise.
Now, I saw something online recently. It was a blog that got a lot of hits, and somebody was experiencing being homeless for 5 days. But what interested me about it, and he survived the experience pretty well, but what really interested me, this was a highly intelligent person. He was giving a blog. He could, you know, bluff his way in quite easily into station showers and things and get a free shower. But I suspect for most people, it's not like that, is it?
No, and I think it's a pride thing. A lot of people won't want to go and ask if they can go and use someone's toilet or the public toilet or the station toilets, because it then really shows that they are very vulnerable. And as much as these people are extremely vulnerable, that's the last thing they ever want to show. And I think that comes back to, again, with us giving out the parcels. And some people were a bit funny with taking them, even at Christmas, because it comes with a level of, like my sister said, being a bit patronising, and people don't want that, especially with people who are rough sleepers who have come from the military. There are a lot of people who have come from the military who don't know how to adapt back into society, and those kind of people don't want your help, which is understandable, but it's also very sad, because you're not there to be patronising, you are there to genuinely help people.
Yeah. We did other things on Dan's buses as well. We had some hairdressers on on board. What were they?
Yeah.
On the buses. And we tried to like give people haircuts and other things. So it wasn't just kind of giving them materialistic things like that. We tried to give them more of an experience.
And
as a whole.
what's the purpose on sprucing people up, Debbie?
Well, if they're going for job interviews and stuff like that. But the thing is, I think it's to make them feel better.
Yeah, that is it. I think when you obviously, as a person who's lucky enough to live in a house with a shower, you wash your hair every day, and that's something normal. But you live on the streets and you can't do that. And a lot of places won't let them go and use even public toilets and things like that. So having the luxury to them of being able to have a hair wash, have a haircut, and to look in a mirror and actually see that you don't look like somebody who is sleeping rough. You look like a normal person. That to them is a big thing.
And as you were saying, with universal credit, it just takes 2 weeks for somebody to be turfed out of where they were living. And I think the thing what Dan is doing with Buses for the Homeless, he's making little pods within London buses, and that not only are they giving some people somewhere to live, they're also bringing in people to rehabilitate them into society again, to get them jobs, to get back in there. I mean, I cannot imagine what it must be like to have had, some of these people have been, wealthy, had good jobs, and now they have nothing. They're ashamed, they don't want to go home. I can't imagine what it must be like. It must be a nightmare.
Debbie, you've been involved in these initiatives for a long time.
Yeah.
What's the kind of essential, I mean, apart from being very proud of your daughters for putting their shoulders to the wheel, what would be your insight, your lesson about trying to deliver practical help to people?
Well, I think that's the most important, as they say, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, and he eats for life. We've got to bring people back to society and show them what to do. I mean, an iPhone today is enough for you to make a living on. It's, something that you can do. Everyone that's homeless could really do something and make some money. They just need to know how. They need to be taught. They need to be integrated back into society. And that is what Dan is doing, and that's what we're trying to help.
And Talia, what would be your most memorable experience from your efforts? What's the thing that really sticks out in your mind?
I think that one of the best things about doing it actually was I was so shocked that I've never done it before. And I think actually the overall experience that you get from being able to help somebody else, it's not something that actually you really get to do very often in day-to-day life. You don't really get to say that you've gone out and you've made a difference in helping people. And I think that just by the end of the day, I wanted to quit my job and do it full time, because you just feel you have such an amazing feeling of a bit of responsibility that you've actually done something to help people. And I strongly urge anyone who ever has even if it's going out and giving somebody a bottle of water on the street, or even when you go past someone, acknowledge that they're there, because that was one of the biggest things that we got told was people are homeless and they've gone through whatever has happened to them to become homeless. But the one thing they hated the most was being ignored. And even if somebody is on the street and they're asking for money, if you just say, sorry, I don't have any, they'll always say thank you. They're not doing it they don't like being ignored. I think things like that, just little things that you pick up. So now if I ever see anyone on the street, when you go in and buy a coffee, buy them a bottle of water. So things like that, it just makes you a bit more wise to what's going on around you. I think that's what I picked up the most out of the whole experience.
And Kira, is there anything in your experiences I've given you an insight which helps in your own career as an actress?
I think actually the main thing is just how fortunate we all are, and we have incredible jobs and we've been given such wonderful opportunities, and in a way it makes you feel quite guilty that you're in a position that things come a little bit easier sometimes. And then you do see these people, whereas getting a job or the smallest thing is such a big thing for them. Like exactly what Talia was saying, the smallest thing goes a really, really long way. And I think that's something in our profession that we don't necessarily ever really think about, because it all comes a little bit easier to us.
Ladies, let's imagine you're sitting here talking to the Prime Minister or the Secretary of State for Housing. I could never impersonate Her Majesty, but let's say you're talking to a current politician with power over these. What would be your big message to that person?
Just look around you. Actually, it's very good that you said that, because as you know, when you go into Parliament, when you go through the Westminster Tube Station, you go through the back way into Parliament, there are people, hundreds of people sitting there that are homeless. And you think all these MPs run past them every day. Do they not see them? I mean, what's going on in Westminster Square? Everywhere, homeless people. When I was growing up, when I was their age, there weren't people around like that. There are thousands of people. What is going on? Somebody's got to see what's happening.
I think that's the thing. The focus at the moment is on things which are a lot more important, shall we say. You know, every news coverage everywhere pretty much is about something to do with Brexit, and understandably, it's a huge thing that's going on, and that's fine. However, those issues, there are other issues that don't subside just because something else has come into play. So I think it shouldn't be forgotten because it's something that has always been there, and it's getting worse. And surely in today's society, with everything that we have and all the resources that we have, it shouldn't really be a problem anymore. So even, I think, things like that, just everybody chipping in a little bit and remembering it's still there would be something to consider.
And if you were speaking to power, Kira, what would be your message?
Well, I think education is a big thing as well. I think educating people as to what is going on around them, because people are unaware and people haven't seen this firsthand necessarily. So yeah, for me, I think education is the power.
Yeah. Debbie, Kira, Talia, thanks very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.
With political debate consumed by Brexit, key issues have been left in the shadows. Of these great issues eclipsed, none is more pressing or more shameful than the housing crisis. This stretches across the United Kingdom, but nowhere is it more pressing than in the capital city of London. It is more than half a century since Ralph McTell's poignant record, Streets of London, soared up the charts. And since then, the homeless charities have been well supported by a public perplexed and embarrassed by the sight of rough sleepers, a visible and shameful demonstration of the poverty among London's plenty. Experts will postulate that the crisis has many facets: mental health, family breakup, ex-service persons' trauma, the breakdown of social security. No doubt, all of these things are important. However, those working with the homeless will tell you absolutely that for very few, this is in any sense a life choice. The homeless are not there by preference. That is why in these programmes, we've turned to examples of practical initiatives in the capital. Those engaged in both the Brixton Soup Kitchen and Buses for Homeless know that their efforts make but a mere dent on the scale of the issues which are being engaged. However, there is both the belief that their efforts do make a difference, accompanied by the desire that one day their voluntary campaigns will no longer be required. But what is the experience outside the confines of the capital? When we return to the issue of homelessness in a couple of weeks, we'll look at whether public policy has made a difference across the United Kingdom and ask whether any European society has got to grips with this intractable problem. Next week, it's back to Brexit, where we look at the state of play in the aftermath of the party conference season. With the Halloween deadline looming, can the Prime Minister pull off a deal? Will he obey the instructions he's received from the courts and Parliament? And how will Brexit be finally resolved? By an election, or another referendum, or both? So for now, from Alex and me and all at the show, it's goodbye, and we hope to see you next week.